Good morning and welcome to OMVAI Talk Show. I am so thrilled to have you here. I am so inspired by your journey as an entrepreneur, and I absolutely love your products and your website. Absolutely fell in love with your website and the products. So I'm wondering if you could tell me how you arrived at where you are today, what that journey looked like for you.
Good morning, and I'm delighted to be here. Very, very, honored to have the opportunity to come speak to Vaibhav and OMVAI about my journey as an entrepreneur. Thank you for having me. I feel grateful at having had the opportunity to be able to follow my heart and do things that I've always enjoyed, do things that I believe in. And I mean, just be able to give a face and a voice to the dreams that I've always had. So I'll start off by sharing a little bit about my journey. I grew up in Mumbai, went to St. Xavier's College, went straight to B school after that. And straight from B school, I went into advertising. It was my first job. I came from a very conservative Punjabi business family which did not believe in letting the girls work. We all had to, get out of college, marry well, bring up children and be good daughter-in-laws and good wives and good mothers and so on. But, I kind of, fought those battles with my parents and started to work. I spent about a year and a half in advertising, but I figured very quickly that wasn't really my cup of tea. And then from there, I moved to working for a brand. I mean, I went to work for Cadbury, the chocolate company. Spent about 2 years there, and then met my husband there. And once we got married, we didn't want to both work at the same company, so I moved on and went to work for Marico, which is a very, very progressive Indian company, which is in the business of oils, edible oils, and hair oils. I spent 4 very good years there. Look, the truth is, I'd spent about 8 years in sales and marketing. I realized that there was something that wasn't quite working for me. There was a niggling doubt about, I'm not really adding value to the work I'm doing. I'm like one tiny cog in the wheel. I spend all my time stressing about things that really don't matter to anybody, right? It's too small a decision point that we're focused on. So I took a year off when my son was born, and I chose not to go back into the corporate rat race. Having worked about 8 years in sales and marketing, I'd worked in a professional environment, learned how to work with teams, learned how to work with discipline and structure in a very, very professional manner. And I think all of that experience held me in good stead. Fabindia is one of the best named Indian companies, here in India, and Fabindia was wanting to start operations in Mumbai and really, roll out a massive growth plan for the business. I joined them in 1998 to help set up operations in Mumbai, and therein started 12-year innings with the company, where I spent a good part of about 10 years setting up stores around the country. I opened 90 stores across the country, handed over contracts for 32 stores that would open over a period of time. And, just grew from strength to strength. It was just fabulous. I got to do this without really feeling like I was an employee. I felt empowered because I was being entrusted with responsibility, and which I was very happy to take. So it wasn't about, having authority and no responsibility. I took responsibility for the decisions I took and, forged right ahead and, set up a team, of regional managers, which would take on the onus of growing the geographical footprint of the business. But, there came a time in about 2007 where I felt a bit like I was plodding in the sand. I could open stores with my eyes shut. The learning had stopped. Now, I'm a very can't live with the status quo kind of a person. For me, it's important to know that the learning continues. I must be learning something new on a daily basis. And that keeps me energized. That keeps me excited. That keeps me interested. So roughly around that time, my husband was looking at an opportunity in Delhi. And, I picked the phone on William, who was the founder, Fabindia. And I said to him, I said, there is an opportunity in Delhi. And if you make it worth my while, I'll come. So I moved to Delhi. Our son was 10 years old. We moved to Delhi and I took charge of the entire buying and merchandising function at Fabindia. I mean, in a retail environment, aside from operations, driving the P&L of the business, the only other very exciting job is really that of, heading product, because product is really the core of, the business. And I spent 2 great years at, Fabindia in Delhi, heading up buying and merchandising, launched jewelry as a category. But there came a time in 2009 where I felt that my dreams and aspirations were becoming much bigger than the shoe I was wearing in the business. Clearly, my aspirations were miles ahead of where the company wanted to be. They were still focused on getting to 300 stores. Having done close to 100 stores myself, I was done with that journey. I was like, find someone else stores, because now I'm not interested in doing that. But, there was no alignment between their aspirations and mine. And it was evident to me that I was the one who was going to have to walk. So in January of 2010, I quit Fabindia after 12 long years, and then decided to chart my own growth as an entrepreneur. I didn't want to be a slave to an organization anymore. I wanted to be my own boss. I set up a consulting practice, which would help people in the retail space, exporters, retailers, small business owners, fashion and lifestyle brands, so to speak, to help them, get their businesses to the next level. But I realized that not working full time for an organization just frees up so much of your time. Your whole outlook grows tremendously, and you have the ability and the time and the headspace to be able to look at all the other possibilities that exist. I've always been a voracious traveler. I like to travel. And I used to, every time I took a trip with the family, with my husband and son, I'd come back from a trip with a list of things to do, which is much longer than the list with my own time. I would invariably end up spending all my time managing their expectations. Is one getting to do what he wants to do? Is the other one getting to read enough? Is the baby getting enough, physical activity done? So I realized that, if I had to travel, I had to travel on my own. So I decided that, I have a certain approach to travel, and maybe it's a great idea to be able to share this approach to travel with other people. So I set up Breakaway, which is an experiential travel company, which is focused on-ground experiences of grassroots India, what we call beyond the brochure experiences of India. The India that people don't talk about. It's not mainstream tourism, right? There is a Rajasthan that everybody knows, Jaypore, Udaipur, Jaisalmer. But there is a Rajasthan that people don't know, which is, Bera and Bassi and Chittorgarh and Kishangarh and Mandava and so on. So we are focused on that exposure and that experience of a Rajasthan that no one knows. Similarly, there's a Gujarat that no one knows, there's an Assam that no one knows. So it's all, journeys off the map. Yeah, I was very happy running my consulting practice and the travel company, and a chance meeting with somebody from, a large investment firm brought me to meet with Puneet Chawla, who ended up being my co-founder at Jaypore.com. He was this young techie who'd only worked in the online space. And he said, I think the future of this country is online. I just don't know what to sell. And Deep, who's the guy who introduced us, said, okay, she might have some ideas on what she wants to sell. And that's, really the aspirations that I'd had for Fabindia, that I wanted to do at Fabindia for Fabindia, is really what I thought I would do with Jaypore.com. So Jaypore really, in one line, is an outcome of the aspirations that I had for Fabindia. But the truth then is that my vision for Jaypore grew in leaps and bounds, and then it became a much larger mandate, right? We wanted to become a representation of India's approach to design, rooted in tradition, but a very, very contemporary outlook in terms of our approach to product, our approach to clothing and, fashion, to be able to showcase, the finest of India to audiences around the world. And that's where, my journey with Jaypore started in 2012. In 2013, we launched a website, that opened up to India and the rest of the world. We started with a small representation of silver jewelry, some products for the house, but the finest product that India has to offer. The truth is that India is able to cater to some of the largest lifestyle stores around the world. But it's product that people in India never get to see because, it just gets exported. It just gets designed and sent off to markets which have a deeper appreciation of this kind of work. And our whole point was to bring contemporary outlook to India, home to India, amongst the rest of the world. And that's what we did. 2012 to 2018 was really a great time for building the Jaypore growth story. I forged ahead with, took leaps of faith on product, on apparel, on home furnishings, on lifestyle. I mean, I remember the day when I decided to curate books for Jaypore and the team, my own team turned around and said, oh, but there isn't a book you can't buy on Amazon. I said, we're curators. And when you curate a list of titles, then it's really allowing for our audiences to be able to sift the wood from the trees. I mean, coffee table books, for example, you're browsing the website, looking for Pashmina shawls. And in the lineup of Pashmina shawls comes up a book on Pashmina by Monisha Ahmed. So that's how we really, really built the Jaypore story. People began to trust the brand. We had a very liberal returns policy because, we weren't here as fly-by-night operators to say we're here today, gone tomorrow. Women were willing to put like upwards of, let's say, $2,000 on a Pashmina stole, knowing very much that, we weren't messing around with them and that they would receive the product. We didn't work for them, we take it right back, no questions asked, right? So there was that faith, there was that trust, and there was that belief that this is my go-to place every time I want to buy something for myself or pick up something really, really special as a gift. I mean, one of the biggest high points for us was, somebody from the US, and I don't remember her name, but, a lady from the US who's very big on the curatorial art circuit came, sent me an email and said, I was at the opening of a new show at MoMA in New York, and I met somebody wearing a beautiful outfit. And when she sent up to her where she got it from, she said, I shop this on Jaypore.com. That to us was like a massive validation of what it is we're trying to do. I mean, Indian clothing was showing up at the opening of a show at MoMA. And that was a big deal. The truth is that, we ended up shipping to about 80 countries worldwide and so on and so forth. Anyway, I mean, through my journey with Jaypore, I continued to do some consulting on the side because it gave me the opportunity to work with other businesses, to be able to see how much of a difference I was able to make in somebody's approach to product or pricing or aesthetic or just simply outreach. How do you add value to a customer's experience of your product, of your brand? So I continued to consult for a while. 2015, in the middle of the Jaypore growth story, there was an opportunity to set up Mustard, which is a concept restaurant in India. We launched, my dear friend Poonam and I got together and launched a restaurant by the name of Mustard, which was all about French meets Bengali over mustard as an ingredient. No one in the country, no one in the world had ever brought two very diverse cuisines together, meeting over mustard as an ingredient. And we curated home style, very honest, non-fussy menus for both French and Bengali cuisine, became talking point in Goa, launched Mustard in Mumbai in August of 2018. And within about 15 months of launch, Mustard was in Mumbai's top 10 restaurants. For me, I think between Breakaway and Jaypore and Mustard, the one common unifying factor really has been my approach to wanting to do stuff that nobody else had ever done before. I don't want to do what 50 other people are already doing. If somebody else has already done it, then there's really no point. It's a bit like getting into a very crowded elevator and jostling for elbow room because you're trying to make space for yourself in a already very crowded space. there's always somebody else who's got more money than you do. There's always someone else who can shout louder than you can. Who's going to have you for breakfast and leave you with no opportunity at all. So unless you have a very, very strong differentiator in terms of what it is that you want to stand for, you really have no hope. Because look, the truth is that people out there are spoiled for choice. The customer today has been spoiled so much in terms of opportunities, in terms of products, in terms of speed of response. Amazon promises to deliver within hours. I mean, look, the truth is that you don't make promises around convenience and range to a customer who's so used to range and convenience the way Amazon does it or the way a Walmart does it, right? You have to stand for something which is unique, something that you can call your own. And that's really been the basic tenet of all my work. Conscious consumption platform called Flourish, just launched in India, and you must look up flourish.shop. But flourish.us will be launching shortly. The whole point is that it's a completely producer-owned platform for the producers, and which is really showcasing people who have an alignment in values, who want to focus on social impact and environmental impact and be able to do good for women communities all over the world. Single largest motivator to do this is really the ability to leverage my learnings and my experiences so far for social impact. And that's really the future of the world. Everybody is speaking that language. Everybody is moving on to a slow way of life, being more responsible, being more mindful about what they consume, right? We don't need yet another, silver bracelet. We don't need yet another wardrobe full of clothes. We really want to be able to consume mindfully and do things that will help make difference to people's lives. So that's one of the newest ventures that I'm very proud to be associated with. But my focus continues to be on done. Last night I was in conversation with somebody, and he said to me, you clearly know what it means to live life on the edge all the time, right? You're the sort who jumps off a cliff and then tries to grow wings along the way, just to be able to give wings to your ideas and to be able to take them somewhere. So yeah, I mean, that's really, in a nutshell, what my journey with entrepreneurship has been. Jaypore got acquired by a large corporate, so I handed over the baton for the organization to a very able team, a large corporate team, and now I'm kind of done and dusted. But it gives me the time and space to be able to look at other opportunities. COVID times in the last 15 months or so have given enough and more time to each one of us to introspect, to reflect upon what is important, what needs priority over the rest, right? I mean, if I had to choose from 3,000 emails, how many emails to respond to me, the choices are, very clear. I mean, who am I going to be able to influence and impact and touch and make a difference to is what I want to reach out to first. Maya Angelou once said, if you learn, share. If you know, teach, and if you have, give. And those are the tenets and principles on which we grew up, because my father was a big giver, and he used to always tell me that beta, whatever it is, you must always be very large-hearted. You must always be willing to share, because what goes around comes around. Do unto others what you want them to do to you, and that's really been the principle of my life. And as I've gotten out of day-to-day running of businesses, I have chosen to spend time to mentor women entrepreneurs, to do a little bit of teaching, at IIM Ahmedabad.
But wow, your journey is, oh my gosh, it has touched me hearing your imagination that you had through this and your journeys. So based on that journey, what's your top 3 values?
Integrity. Integrity is the top of my list when it comes to values, right? Sincerity and hard work. Yeah, I mean, there are no shortcuts. There is no quick way to get anywhere. Yeah. Perseverance, passion, determination, combined with hard work is really what gets you to where you need to be, right? And collaboration. Have a collaborative mindset. Be willing to share, be willing to co-create, be willing to connect, because that's really what makes, I mean, there is an old adage which says 1+1 is not 2, but 11. I've seen that happen. Always have a collaborative mindset. So then there's really no competition out there. Everybody is an ally. You find a way to work together, and it's so much more powerful.
Teamwork definitely is one of the most important things. If you can work together, you can grow much faster, and you walk faster with teamwork. But I'm sure that you had to have faced a lot of challenges being a female, a leader. I don't know if some of those challenges were maybe lack of fairness in the workplace, lack of fairness in the corporate world. What challenges did you face?
In this day and age, there's so much more conversation around patriarchy and gender inequality. I worked in a corporate environment across 3 or 4 organizations for 20 years. Fabindia is largely female-driven, female-run. At least it was way back then. Prior to that, the jobs I had in advertising and sales and marketing, I had to say that I wasn't really thinking about gender inequalities and the fact that I was a woman and therefore I didn't have a voice. I mean, I had to find a way to say what I needed to say. This whole conversation around gender equality and the inequality and the disparity that exists in the workplace cannot become an excuse. I've always felt that, of course, now when I think back, I'm reminded of anecdotes, I'm reminded of experiences, and I'm saying, that was misogyny at its best then. I didn't even know these terms then. Today I do. But my word of advice to women entrepreneurs, women in the workspace, is that you have to learn to hold your ground. Do not wall yourself from conflicts, because the point is that it is an unfair world. But this isn't about unfairness. This is about finding a way to hold your own, to be confident about who you are, and what you stand for. My advice to young women, who are 25, 27, in the workspace, or on the cusp of launching their own businesses, choosing partners, life partners, choosing to marry, I tell them, learn to choose well. Have conversations. This isn't just about attraction and love and what seems like a great lifestyle to have, because these things never last. You have to be able to negotiate your own space at home, with your partners, with your parents, with your children, even with your children, right? I mean, my son grew up to be a very, very independent young man, because he always knew that his mother was a working mother, and there were very strong lines in terms of what was permitted, what was not. I would like to believe that he respects me for the professional I am, for what I've been able to build with my life. And, without me having dropped the ball as a mother. But the truth is that, as entrepreneurs, for example, women have to have supporting families, because if there's support at home, you don't just survive, you thrive. Big difference between survival and thriving. If there's somebody who's constantly egging you on, encouraging you, making space and room to be able to give you the space you need, it's all negotiation. You've got to negotiate that space. So yes, there are challenges. I mean, my battles with my father were hard fought, but very well won. I mean, he grew to become very, very proud of me. And I'm saying that, in my conservative Punjabi Banya family, I was amongst the first women to step out and work. And that opened doors for so many others in the extended family today to be able to hold their own and to take a stance about what they want to be and, where they want to be. So when we look for co-founders, when we're running businesses, be mindful of the kind of people you engage with, the kind of people you align with. People who you trust the most are the ones who let you down the most as well. And that's very, very important as well for women who want to be, great, good caregivers at home, want to be good mothers, want to be good partners, and at the same time, want to have their own professional identity.
I agree. So with the 3,000 emails, the ones you would pick the most then?
Like I said, I want to be able to make a difference to whoever it is that I talk to. I want them to know that, yes, she came along at the right time and helped me build whatever it is that I'm trying to build. So if I'm contributing to somebody else's growth, that's what I want to respond to. And if there is somebody who's contributing to my growth and who's helping me along my journey, I want to respond to that. There's a lot of emails which are nice to respond to, but those will just have to wait.
Wow.
So yeah,
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. If it doesn't happen tomorrow,
yeah,
maybe it's just not meant to.
Yeah.
Well, was there anything you'd do differently? If looking back, is there one thing that you'd do different?
There's nothing that I have regrets about professionally. I mean, there will always be personal regrets. My dad passed away in Bombay. I wasn't next, close to him. The opportunity to be able to say goodbye to loved ones, you have regrets about. But what would I do differently? I mean, professionally, in my career, my role as a mother. No, I mean, I think maybe I would, learn to stop caring about what other people have to say about me a lot earlier in life. That would have made my life so much simpler. We spend a good part of our time, a good part of our life, trying to measure up to somebody else's expectations of us, of what we should be. But the truth is that in trying to keep up with someone else or with somebody else's defined, version of what I should be, somewhere I'd begun to lose sight of myself. And, those lessons came to me very late in life. But today, I think, women are learning those lessons much earlier, much sooner. And that's like more power to them.
So if you were to write a book, how would you title it?
I haven't thought about this. I haven't thought about it. I'm still pushing back when I have friends who tell me that, listen, it's about time you started to write the story of your life. So yeah, I mean, I'll come back, tell you when I have my thoughts around that one. I mean, look, the thing is that there's so much left to do. There is so much more that one needs to do, one wants to do. So yeah, the book will just have to wait for the foreseeable future. Yeah.
So can you describe yourself in one sentence?
Someone who can never have enough, always ready to do things. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. That's fantastic. Definitely fits your journey.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Did you have anything that you want, just one last comment or something you wanted to tell the audience about entrepreneurship?
I've learned that we all have circumstances. Not let it be about your circumstances. It's not really your circumstances, it's your potential. And this is something that I learned from Oprah Winfrey. I think in one of her books, I mean, I'm a great fan of hers. I'm a great admirer of her work and her interviews. Oprah Winfrey.
Oh, Oprah, thank you.
Oprah Winfrey. And she said, you are not your circumstances, you are your potential. And I think that kind of sums up my journey as an entrepreneur as well. There was a lot of conditioning, a lot of what we call completely defunct cultural conditioning that we grew up with, right? Women are meant to be this, women are meant to be good mothers, caregivers, providers, always think of the other before yourself. I mean, we need to dump all this conditioning. And the truth is that I could either sit back and whine about, the circumstances in which I was growing up, the circumstances in which I went to college, and so on. But the truth is that, it's not about your circumstances. It is about the potential. And there's enough and more stories of people who really, really held their own and converted every single situation into an opportunity. Listen to your inner gut, because there is a voice inside which is constantly telling you when it's time to stop in your tracks and do something about, where you're at, right? Don't get comfortable with the status quo. Do not get comfortable with smooth sailing. Look, I mean, it's very easy to be wedded to a paycheck. You're doing well for yourself. You're getting paid good money. You've got recognition. You've got the acknowledgement. Why is it then you're restless? My mother said to me when I quit Fabindia, everything's going so well. Why must you leave? The truth is that, I was feeling like it was time to move on. It was time to paint another canvas of growth. And I have to say that whilst Fabindia has been instrumental, hugely in terms of the person I am today, the truth is that I have lived more in my last 10, 11 years of being on my own than I did in the 40 years before that. Because professionally and personally, the growth that's come about in these last 11 or 12 years is just phenomenal.
Wow, amazing. I am so grateful for sharing your journey with me. I've learned so much from you and so inspired, and am grateful to, I look forward to being able to meet you one day in person.
I look forward to that too. I'm also going to wait for an opportunity to have someone interview Vaibhav to hear about his journey and his story.
Okay, I absolutely will consider that. I mean, I'm definitely open to all possibilities. I mean, like when you talked about that, little inner voice, I'm thinking there's a little inner voice that's saying, yeah, do it. So I think I'm ready.